I'm the CEO of Rockabye Baby. Our company works in different hospitals to ensure that you are connected to the proper child at birth quickly, and most important, to make sure that it's the right child. Of course, there is always the possibility of an issue made on site by hospital staff. In the case of the 1900s, specifically in 1931 at the leading University Medical Center, I'll tell you what happened. Two girls, Agnes and Lenny, were both switched at birth at a hospital. It wasn't until 2 decades later, at a wedding, when they had a mutual likeness for each other's family, the suspicion rose that they did not belong to the proper family. You can clearly see how big of an issue this is. If you're the child, you have been separated from your parents for 20 years, and if you're the parent, you have been raising the wrong child for 20 years. This is something very big that needs to be addressed, and this is why we are here to help.
Retina scan is a biometric verification scan that can identify a person's trait by using an image of the retinal blood vessel pattern from the eye. It is similar to an iris scan, another biometric verification scan that identifies a pattern within the iris. At Rockabye Baby, we make sure that newborn children gets a retina scan before they can go back with their biological mothers. When scanning the newborn's retina, they use a handheld spectrum domain optical coherence tomography device. There are various potential limitations of retina scans, such as people with eye disabilities, such as blindness, and it can be difficult if the retina or the iris recognition is not configured or installed without consultation and guidance from disabled people.
Oh yeah. It's all about you. One time.
I'ma say it's all about you, baby.
It's all about you.
It's Drew Down in the house with my boy Piznock, you know what I'm saying?
It's all about you.
Yeah, I'ma say it's all about you, but you know I'm lying, no. Yeah.
You probably crooked as the last trick. Wanna laugh?
Vein authentication uses infrared lights, which hemoglobin or protein molecules in blood cells absorbs to then create a pattern that is reflected to the scanner. The image is then recorded and stored into the files of patients so that hospitals can have easy access to the information when needed. Hospitals can then use this information to match parents with their newborn children to ensure that there are no switched at birth situations.
Cheek swabbing is a means of obtaining a physical DNA sample. We can use this technique to harmlessly extract the sample DNA required to run our paternity tests. Buccal swabbing, named buccal for the fact that we're gathering buccal epithelial cells, is actually used in many different fields. It is faster, less expensive, and less painful than taking a blood sample. Buccal swabbing in and of itself is actually not a DNA analysis test, but it's actually a means of obtaining a DNA sample that can be used in the regular DNA analysis test. In fact, the same DNA analysis test that we did in class. Various methods of obtaining these samples, and the quality of said sample is being controlled by how much money you spend on the device, pretty much. At the hospital, we will be using isohelix DNA swabs with special surfaces that are engineered to collect far more buccal epithelial cells than a regular cotton swab. Buccal swab techniques are especially useful in veterinary fields. You know, when you have the animal on the table and you just want to get it out of there and get this DNA sample, you don't want to have to stab a needle into the dog or the cat or whatever. It's a lot easier to just take a buccal swab. It's much easier for someone to extract DNA this way. And also, when you're wanting to analyze DNA of 100 plus people, or, you know, all the incoming babies, it's also easier to use buccal swabs over other techniques. While the benefits of buccal samples are numerous, there are definitely some disadvantages within the methods. One problem includes the fact that buccal samples are entirely human operated and labor intensive. Because of this, the quality of the sample often relies on how much care is taken by the one administering the test. So if the nurse, they're tired and they don't take a good enough sample, then the samples won't be good enough for the test. The sample quality also varies largely between different tools for taking samples. With the regular cotton swab, there's already huge drastic differences in how much buccal epithelial cells are found. For those who are concerned with the security and the privacy of the records that we keep of buccal sample cells, we'll be happy to find out that the buccal sample cells are not only gotten rid of by the time the sample is over, they're also corrupted, and also no one really cares what your buccal epithelial cells look like. Because buccal swabs are actually taken on site while picking up your child, there isn't exactly any way for someone to forge the correct parent's buccal epithelial cells unless they're able to store that correct parent's buccal epithelial cells within their own mouth and then get tested, which would be weird, but I guess they could pull it off. I feel like at that point they deserve the baby. Like, if they're able to work that hard, damn. Buccal swab. Take a buccal swab. Use buccal swabs. Buccal swab. Cotton swab.